Happy Breeders' Cup Week. The action starts on Friday at Del Mar for the World Championships. We will first see the juvenile divisions go on Friday, and then on Saturday we will get to see the older horse divisions compete. Very pleased to be joined by trainer Doug Cowans to talk about his Breeders' Cup Classic entry and a fan favorite next. So Doug Cowans, welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Abby. How are you today? And thanks for having me on.
I'm doing good. Thank you. So next, he's definitely a very unique racehorse specializing in the marathon distances. He's had a great year. He's dominated everywhere we go. And, then you guys get to a point where you started to consider the Breeders' Cup options. You got a decision to make between the Classic and the Turf. You even pre-entered in both races last week. What ultimately made you guys choose the Classic route for him?
Well, Abby, it wasn't an easy decision to either have to give up surface or distance. Ultimately, I wanted to make sure that at the end of the day, I took something away from the race, even if we didn't do well here. So I thought that possibly if I ran on turf, I might not be able to take much away from the race. At least running on the dirt, I know that that's his surface. The distance might be not so much for him, but if he can do it, then we'll know that and can have a different plan for next year, or at least add to his marathon races. If he doesn't run well, then we know we probably need to just stick with what we had going and just continue to go down that path.
No, pending the outcome, it definitely can open up some new doors for him next year. If I remember correctly, I think, for a while you guys were, Breeders' Cup wasn't really a major thought. You did kind of want to keep him at those marathon distances. So when did those thoughts kind of change and you guys started to say, okay, maybe we consider the Breeders' Cup, let's take a look at these things?
So for myself and the team, we wanted to stick to the plan that we had made in January for the horse, which led us ultimately to the last race there at Parks. And after that, the season we had planned for him was over. And when we got him home, the horse was doing well, and we decided to let him get through a couple breezes and see how the horse was doing. And honestly, I looked for every reason not to bring him to the Breeders' Cup, and the horse never gave me one reason not to bring him here. He trained forwardly out of the Parks race, and thought, this might be an opportunity to allow the horse, while he was on top of his game, to try grade 1 horses, shorten down to 1.25 miles, and see if it opens up any doors for the horse next year.
Well, I know a lot of racing fans, including myself, were very happy to see that A, he was going to try the Breeders' Cup, and B, go in the Classic. He drew post number 14. How do you guys feel about that outside draw for him?
I personally like the outside draw for a couple of different reasons. The first reason is there's a ton of speed in the race. He's going to be able to break, allow everything to unfold inside of him, and see how the race can play out for him. If all the speed goes, we'll try to get him to relax, get into his rhythm, treat the race just as one of his other races, a 1.5 mile race, and then at some point, once he's in his rhythm, he might have to pick it up a little sooner, but we'll see if he can do it or not.
I kind of want to go back to when you guys first claimed this horse. I think it was back in 2022. I think shortly after you said, you realized he had some stamina. Can you talk a little bit about the type of horse that you got when you first acquired him, maybe your first impressions of him, and then the training that you did with him, and especially in those works to, I guess, kind of give him the tools to be the next that we see today?
So shortly after getting the horse, I realized that he had a unique amount of stamina. And, after the breezes, I kept thinking to myself and, asking the jocks that were breezing him at the time, the horse seems to do this awful easy. I feel like we're all missing something here. I'd like to tap into some other things with the horse at that time. Never knew if it would work or not. But ultimately, after the Ellis Park race where he ran 4th and I thought he should win the race and he didn't, I told these guys I need to try something different with the horse because he trains too well to run that bad. And that's when I made the decision to take him to Delaware Park and try the 1.5 miles. And he set a track record, and the rest is history for the marathon for him.
It's obviously pretty common for horses to get claimed out of races, but although we've seen it happen before, it's not so common for them to go on and be a Breeders' Cup horse. Did you ever envision that this claim would go on to accomplish what he has so far?
I never envisioned the horse being in the Breeders' Cup Classic at any point until after the Parks race, last race. But after we ran him at Delaware, his next start was in the undercard of the Breeders' Cup in 22, and he was in the marathon race, and so the Classic was never on the radar till after the Parks race to answer the question. But, and if they had the marathon race this year, we would probably be back in that again. So with that being eliminated, his season being over, the next marathon race is not till the end of March at Oaklawn. Just thought this was a good opportunity to go ahead and, try to learn something about the horse.
And last question I'll ask, and then I'll let you go. Luan Machado has been aboard him for all of his starts since he's been in your barn. I know he's also been very involved in working him in the mornings. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that relationship that those two have and how important that has been for his success?
So Luan started breezing the horse as we made plans to go to Delaware back in 22. And, the whole key moving forward as he was breezing the horse was to try to get him to relax. Ultimately, we thought that he would be right on the lead in that first race, going over there, going 1.5 miles. So the key was to get to the lead and slow him down. But like all horse races, that's not the way the race went. He actually that second the whole time. And, that was the beginning of teaching him to relax, and Luan's been a big part of that and has continued to do that the whole time. And hopefully, in the Classic, he'll break and settle real nice. I'm sure he'll be much further back than he is in his other races, but he's really outside post. So hopefully we can get him to relax, settle into his rhythm, and pick it up as needed.
I mean, like I said before, I'm definitely a big fan of this horse. I know I'm not the only one, so I am definitely cheering him on Saturday. Excited to see him go take on this field. Thank you so much, Doug, for being on here and providing some insight into next. I really appreciate it, and best of luck on Saturday. We'll be cheering for him.
Well, thank you, Abby, and let's try to get him home.